This week at Dreamworld, King Claw has been spotted testing, the Big Brother house destination is revealed, and reading more of your comments and your thoughts on upcoming additions to Dreamworld. Hello everyone, welcome back to the YumYum Report, bringing you bite-sized updates from Australian theme parks, as well as occasional updates from theme parks around the world. Before we start, I'd like to give a special thanks to Team YumYum for supporting my content. Thank you so much. A TikTok user by the name of gc.parks posted a video of King Claw testing over the weekend. It looks like this was recorded outside the park at nighttime, possibly after the park was closed. And as you can see, King Claw is testing. From what I can see in the video, it doesn't look like it's quite reaching its full speed or full height, but it's fantastic to see the ride actually moving, as well as King Claw's eyes, which are glowing a nice red color. What does this mean for the opening of King Claw? Is it going to be sooner than we think? My guess is probably for an opening towards the end of October or maybe early November. Progress is still rapidly moving along on the groundworks surrounding King Claw. They've recently completed the new flooring, and some theming elements for the queue have arrived in the car park, such as these wooden beams which will be part of the fencing. It looks like the ride gondola itself actually lights up as well, which is really cool. It's something I wasn't quite expecting, but it makes it really stand out, especially at nighttime. It does seem like they've put a lot of effort into making this ride look really impressive at nighttime, especially with the lights, which makes me wonder if we're going to see Dreamworld open more frequently in the evening, or if King Claw is going to be part of the Dreamworld night market lineup. What do you think? How far away are we from seeing King Claw actually opening? Could it be within October and November? Let me know down below in the comments. Last week, Dreamworld revealed that the new Big Brother house for this year will be actually inside the Dreamworld Exhibition Center nearby Gold Coaster and Ocean Parade. This whole area has been closed off for some time now since Winterfest, and it was unclear what was happening, and Gold Coaster's maintenance period was also extended, I believe, until around December, which should be around the time that Big Brother finishes for this year. It's very interesting having the Big Brother house inside the park like this, especially so close to some of the rides, and I can definitely see why they've closed down Gold Coaster if this is going to be the case, because it would make so much noise. You would always hear people screaming in the background. It's also a bit funny having the house inside the exhibition center. I'm not really sure how that's going to work, how they're going to design the house, how it's going to look. It is pretty exciting to see how it's all going to turn out. And although I'm not a big fan of Big Brother, in fact I've never even watched it before, I think I will try and check it out this year, just out of curiosity. I am curious how it's going to impact the Happy Halloween event, because they usually use that space for the maze and VIP area. I wonder if that's still going to be a part of the event this year, and if so, if it's going to be inside the event center or if it's going to be somewhere else in the park. I think overall it's a good opportunity for Dreamworld. I don't know how much money they're making from it, but I hope it does kind of have an impact on the park itself, and hopefully can sort of fund some new additions or upgrades and things. I guess we'll find out. What do you think of the Big Brother house being inside the exhibition center? Do you think that's a good spot for it, or are you kind of disappointed that Gold Coaster is going to be closed for a bit longer? Let me know down below. In the last episode of the YumYum Report from Dreamworld, I read some of your comments and your thoughts on upcoming additions to the park, and I received so many comments and ideas that I didn't have time to read them all in one video. So today I'm going to be finishing it off and reading the comments from the YouTube video itself. Theme Park Ogre says, Kenny and Belinda rivals? Yes, make it so. I think that would be such a fun idea. If we had a dueling hypercoaster like Stardust Races and it was themed to Kenny and Belinda, that would be so silly, but it would be absolutely awesome. Locan MTB13 says, I would love to see an RMC replace Motor Coaster with lots of airtime and a couple of inversions. It would fit so nicely into the park. An RMC would be a really cool addition. I don't know too much about RMC, but I have seen a lot of POVs of Wildfire at Kolmården Wildlife Park in Sweden, which looks absolutely incredible. It's such a random coaster to exist, but I think it looks really cool, and after riding Leviathan I kind of have a sweet spot for wooden coasters, and it would be cool to have something renowned like an RMC coaster. Good Ship Cruising says, I would love to see a replacement of the Gold Coaster and the Motor Coaster with more variety. I think another thrill coaster would be perfect, and maybe something like the Bermuda Triangle. One can dream. It definitely seems like Motor Coaster and Gold Coaster are sort of well into their life cycles now, and I'm curious how long they're going to stick around in the park for. It would be interesting to see a replacement for both of these rides. I feel like Motor Coaster would be easier to replace, and honestly I feel like they could even upgrade it as it is by just maybe giving it a bit more of a touch-up, upgrading the ride vehicles, retheming it and giving it a bit of a little upgrade. Gold Coaster on the other hand, it's hard to say how long this is going to stick around for. Obviously it recently underwent a retheme from the Hot Wheels coaster to Gold Coaster and a repaint as well, but it's definitely an older ride. It's sort of tucked away down at one end of the park that I feel like doesn't get a lot of foot traffic at this stage. I do feel like if Dreamworld and Whitewater World were kind of connected more clearly, as in if you could walk from one park to the other without having to exit either one, I feel like some of the rides down that end of the park would get a bit more traffic. It does feel like Gold Coaster would be quite a complicated ride to replace as well, because it is interweaved so specifically with Whitewater World itself, wrapping around many of the slides and things. They would have to dismantle it during the off season, and I'm not sure what they could replace it with. It does take up quite a large footprint in the park, so they could probably even put a couple of different attractions there. Something like Bermuda Triangle would be an absolute dream as well at the park. Dreamworld's definitely been missing a water ride for a long time now, and it's definitely something that's missing from the park's lineup. I feel like a well-themed log flume attraction would be a perfect addition. Something like Bermuda Triangle would be great. I'd love to see a dark ride, water ride hybrid with really top-of-the-line theming and an immersive storyline. Coaster Blocks 3420 says, I think a graceful gig at 100 meters focused on airtime, that's still 20 meters shorter than the giant drop, or a 6-story building for perspective. Graceful airtime, massive camelbacks, fast airtime hills and elegant turns. For whippiness and inversions, there's steel taipan. For an out-of-this-world, zero-G experience, give us a giga. Doesn't have to be the biggest, fastest, or tallest, but make it what people will declare the greatest. Retiring the claw and replacing it with a bigger, updated version isn't addressing a lack of thrill rides, it's maintaining the status quo. I definitely think a coaster focusing on airtime, like you say, would be really impressive. I do feel like Dreamworld needs something on their skyline to sort of compete with DC Rivals, which is a very impressive attraction that you can really see from all over the place. They do have the giant drop, but I feel like a large coaster like that would be super impressive. I love airtime as well, so I'd love something like that. I do kind of agree to some level with you about the claw. I'm not sure it entirely addresses the lack of thrill rides, given they are sort of replacing one attraction for an updated version. It doesn't kind of fill any of the gaps that were already there. But it is sort of a necessity. The claw is a very iconic attraction, and it definitely needed an upgrade, so I think it's great that they're upgrading it, but I feel like they do need a few more attractions for their lineup. Damon J. Saltman says, Dream Scenario is an area in the old Blue Lagoon / Rocky Hollow, a family shoot the chutes, and a couple of small flats in the Blue Lagoon area, and an RMC Raptor in the Rocky Hollow area. I just want to see Dreamworld exceed, and it's doing so well so far. I would really love it if they did breathe some life back into that end of the park. They've got a lot of space there, and they were doing some work kind of on the grounds where the old log flume ride used to be. It felt like they were sort of preparing it for future attractions, and that might still be the case. I don't know what their plan is in the long run and what they've got lined up, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. The Shoot the Chutes log flume would be great. I'm a huge fan of any log flume. It doesn't even have to be the most impressive one in the world. Obviously I would love a really well-themed, immersive flume attraction, but there's parks like Rainbow's End in New Zealand that prove that you can still pull off something really impressive on a smaller scale. An RMC Raptor in the Rocky Hollow area would also be really cool. Seems like RMC is a very popular opinion. GW Nicholas says, I think the main reason that Dreamworld struggles with competing with Village Roadshow Parks is that as its own park, it's definitely better than the others on the Gold Coast, but can't quite compete with all the Village Roadshow Parks combined, since most people visiting the Gold Coast will get a 3-day to 5-day pass for all the Village Roadshow parks. Also, I 100% agree with the Dreamworld hyper. I've been hoping for this ever since DC Rivals opened, and have created several concepts. I do feel like Village Roadshow offers a very attractive package for tourists and travelers, given they've got Movie World, SeaWorld, Paradise Country, Wet n Wild, and the Outback Spectacular. It's definitely good if you want to have everything included in your trip. Does have a lot to offer as well. I definitely feel like with their proposed land developments, if they can increase the offerings on the lands with resorts and dining and other additions, it will hopefully kind of even the playing field a bit. But even as things stand, Dreamworld is doing incredibly well. Coast Entertainment Holdings sales went up by 275% over the last financial year, which is incredibly impressive. But I do feel like Dreamworld does need to focus in on some of the areas their competition is kind of dominating, which would definitely be entertainment and accommodation. Koala75 says, thank you for the update, love how the park is improving and potential to expand. A hotel and restaurants would be great additions. As an international visitor, I would love to stay close by to the parks. I feel like that's an important perspective to take into account. A lot of the people that kind of push back against the idea of accommodation are locals, so it's sort of obvious that they wouldn't have a purpose for hotels and resorts at the parks. But if you look at it from the perspective of people traveling interstate or overseas, it would be very convenient to have a great hotel or resort nearby the park itself for people to stay at, so they don't have to travel long ways and worry about all the public transport systems and everything to get there. Lucas City says, bringing back the old paddle steamer would be a good touch for their new river town, especially that the tracks are still in the water from the original. A dark ride to the likes of Disneyland, Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad, Ratatouille, something Australian themed, maybe Blinky Bill, which would fit quite comfortably with their wildlife park. I absolutely love the idea of bringing back the paddle steamer. Last year I visited Tokyo Disneyland, and one of my favorite attractions at that park was the Mark Twain riverboat, which was a little unexpected. I found it so relaxing just cruising along the river, enjoying the nice peaceful music and the nature. Something like that on the Mississippi River would be fantastic. And yes, you're absolutely right, they do still have the tracks in the water. It seems like some of the infrastructure is already there for something like this. I'm not sure what would go into it with some of the wildlife that lives in the river, how they would relocate things ethically and everything. But if they could do that, I think that would be a great choice. Definitely think a dark ride is much needed at any of the Australian theme parks. It would be a perfect fit at Dreamworld, especially if they themed it to something Australian. Sam the Infoman says, the King Claw, it would be really nice if they did like a mini river wrapped around the ride, with rocks under the water and on the sides, surrounded by plants and vibrant flowers. Green plants and orange flowers would suit the theming and the color of the animal logo itself. Right through it would be nice, plain or colored. Also add like a wooden flattish bridge to cross the river, get to the ride queue, and a wooden deck would be nice. There's so much cement in Ocean Parade, it needs to change. Those are really cool suggestions for the theming surrounding King Claw. I definitely agree with you that Ocean Parade is quite cement heavy, and there's not too much there that really reminds me of the ocean or the beach or anything. What's to come 2026? Greg wants to do something with the old Tower of Terror building near Rivertown. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it, and if it will be an add-on to Rivertown. An indoor dark ride or even exotic animals, birds in a darkish place with tiki torches would be sick, and adding in like a jungle, sounds, etc. You could do something special and unique with it. Big Brother will bring in a new aspect to the park as well, with house tours, possibly hiring out the house for events like they did before. I think there will be movement happening with the whole development of the hotel / town center, etc. A couple of new rides will come for sure. There's still lots of empty spaces that can be used depending on where Big Brother house actually is. Old vintage car location, where the old Big Brother auditorium was, the whole old water volcano area, old log ride area. Exciting times for Dreamworld. Yeah, there's definitely lots of areas of the park that they can expand and redevelop. It's crazy thinking how many parts of the park were there when it originally opened that are sort of closed down now, and there's definitely so much that they could do there. Great ideas, and thanks for the comment. Benji Dillon says, in terms of what's next, I think it's really hard to say based on what the park has added in the last couple of years. With a small-scale powered coaster and large-scale family coaster, I do think that something on the higher thrill level is coming next in terms of a coaster addition to the park, but I wanted to break it down into 3 possibilities. Number 1, flat ride. I think if the park was going to add another flat, it would be on a small scale. I'd love to see Humpty Go Round get replaced by a Zampella Nebulas. It would add more life into the area, and at this point Humpty Go Round is a borderline uncomfortable and outdated ride model that has a decent plot of land for something like a Nebulas. Number 2, family coaster. I'd love to see a small scale GG or GCI family Woody in the old log flume plot of land. It obviously wouldn't rival Leviathan, but it would easily rival Wicked Witch and Kansas Twister, and would also fill in a gap in their lineup. Number 3, thrill coaster. If the park wanted to go for something unique to Australia, then an RMC Raptor would be the way to go. Even if it was a cloned layout, it would be highly marketable and themable, and doesn't take up a huge plot of land. If the park does remove motor coaster, however, I would love to see an Intamin Ultra Surf in its place that would be themed to match the rest of Rivertown. Great video as always. I do feel like out of all the flat rides in the park, Humpty Go Round is definitely sort of a remnant of a weird phase of Dreamworld. I'm not a huge fan of it. I haven't ridden it myself. I don't have any plans to. It looks ridiculously uncomfortable, especially because I'm quite tall. And Zampella Nebulas would be a really cool option. A family Woody in the old log flume plot of land sounds like a fantastic idea. I do agree, I don't think anything could really rival Leviathan in that field, unless they went for something a bit larger and more extreme. But I do feel like Dreamworld's got a really nice classic vibe, and a wooden coaster definitely has a nostalgic feel to it. I think that would be a perfect choice for the park. Yeah, the RMC Raptor, I've heard a few people say that as well, and I do feel like it's sort of a unique selling point, one of the single rail coasters. It's very unique looking and intriguing. I feel like it would really grab a lot of people's attention. An Intamin Ultra Surf as well would be a great replacement for motor coaster. It would kind of fit the itch for a slightly more thrilling attraction and also a water-based attraction, and it would look really nice with Rivertown as well. I'm not quite sure how exactly they would theme it into Rivertown, but I do like the idea. John McElhaney says they need a new water ride / coaster and more roller coasters. When you look at theme and amusement parks around the world, roller coasters are a dominant factor. More thrilling rides in the parks, as the family and kids rides have been covered. As for the hotels and city walk style of attractions outside of the park, they need more rides inside the park first before looking at that. Wipeout replacement and log ride replacement, Blue Lagoon area replacement, new coasters to replace, motor coaster and gold coaster. The one thing I really hear a lot is definitely the water ride and thrill ride suggestion, which it does seem like either of those options would be a great next attraction for the park. In terms of the city walk area outside of the park, I do feel like regardless of how many attractions they have inside the park at this stage, it would be a great option and something that would be good to add sooner than later. You don't want to be behind your competitors. You want to be ahead of the curve, and these sort of things take time to development, so you need to plan it ahead of time rather than being reactive. You need to be proactive. And the point is, as it stands, when people leave Dreamworld, there's currently nothing to do once they exit the park. If they want food, they'll go to Kumara Mall or back to their accommodation and eat there, or to a different restaurant. They've somewhat been addressing this with the night market and Jane's Rivertown restaurant, but this is only available on Fridays and Saturday nights for a short period of time. If they had something 24/7, 12 months a year, that wasn't reliant on them needing to necessarily pay staff inside the park, it would be a gold mine for them. They would be the landowners, the landlords. They could rent out and lease out spaces, and it would just be a money-making machine, basically, which would then be able to funnel more attractions into the park. It's kind of like a what comes first, the chicken or the egg situation. I do feel like it's the right time to add something like that. Jordan Nordwell says, great video. I would like to see a new thrill coaster, a water ride, or a dark ride, as the park feels like it's lacking in those departments. Here's an idea. What if they combined all three of those things into one edition? A thrill dark water ride, a dark thrilling water coaster, whatever that is. 3-Ticket Tat Carmine says, was just watching some old videos of mine from other theme parks when it hit me that Australia does not have a good spinning coaster. Maybe Dreamworld can come with an Australian first Mack Ride spinning coaster, something like Dragon's Fury, which has a custom layout. Considering as soon as the Steel Taipan or motor coaster goes out of operation, the thrill quotient comes down. I watched an American theme park enthusiast visit Dreamworld for a day, and Steel Taipan went out of order on unplanned maintenance, with motor coaster being on planned maintenance that day. They did not have much to do, which is not fair if you're not a local. That sounds like a really good idea. I feel like the spinning seat on Steel Taipan is very popular, which kind of proves that people are open to that kind of idea on a more thrilling ride. And I definitely agree that in terms of the coasters, when one of them's on maintenance, it kind of reduces the amount of stuff to do, especially if you are traveling from interstate or overseas. Laura T says, I hope they don't remake the third train station. It takes so long to get everyone on and off, and it's only a short train trip from Koala Country Station to outside Jane's, and a very short walk from Jane's to main train station. I don't know, I don't necessarily mind the wait at each station. It sort of gives time to pause and reflect. I like the slower pace, and yes, it is a short train trip from Jane's to the main train station. That is if you're, able-bodied and maybe younger, and it's not necessarily the case if you're traveling with older guests or younger guests. It takes a lot longer to walk around depending on the people you're with, and you have to take everybody into account. Blokey's says, love the report. As far as my opinion goes, I would really like to see something other than coasters. I'd love to see an investment in dark rides and storytelling. Coasters have their place, but enough already. Every new announcement includes one. I kind of agree with you there, Blokey's. I definitely lean more towards the theme park enthusiast side of things, and I love immersive storytelling and dark rides and things. I do feel like there's a need for both of those things, but the thing that would really set them apart at this stage, I do feel like would be a dark ride, something very immersive. Maybe if they could have like a micro precinct, which might seem a bit strange after Rivertown to build an entire new area of the park, but something that has both of those options within the area. Like you could have a thrill coaster and a dark ride. That would be the ideal situation, I think. Victor Loring says, the next edition has to be still family friendly to keep the entry numbers growing. As much as I'd like for them to put in a thrilling B&M surf coaster, it's just not the right time. However, a rip-off of the new Catapult Falls is a log flume at SeaWorld. San Antonio by Intamin is a no-brainer, and the park would be silly not to invest in a quality water ride just to avoid a rapids ride. If the park wanted to be a little bit more daring, it could look at using the island and Hudson River for the new Mack water boat, referred to as the Rocking Boat water ride system developed by the German manufacturer Mack Rides, and I'd love to see a redo of Bermuda Triangle at a different park for the nostalgic sale. I think that would fit into Rivertown quite nicely. The more comments I read, the more I kind of realize that Dreamworld actually has a lot more opportunities than they maybe did during the period after what happened with Thunder River Rapids. And the more I think about it, the more I think it would be a great idea to open a new area that has one of each of these options. One thrill coaster, one dark ride, and one water ride. Of course, you could combine the water ride and the dark ride together. I can't say which it would be the best option out of the three of them. I'm probably contradicting myself from what I've said in other comments, and this is the last comment I'm reading. But the way I see it, I feel like any of those options would satisfy the audiences that would be drawn to them, and it's difficult to say which would be the most successful for the park. I would have to say the family audience would likely be the more lucrative audience to target, because obviously families are more than one person, so that equals more ticket sales and more food and drink sales. And that's not to say that all families are the same, that all families want dark rides and family-friendly rides. I'm sure there's families out there that love thrill coasters and thrill attractions, but generally speaking, the family demographic I feel like does kind of lean more towards those sort of family-friendly rides. So I feel like that would probably be the best route to go at this stage, although they have put a lot of effort into family attractions lately with Rivertown and the upgrades to Kenny and Belinda's Dreamland. The thing with Kenny and Belinda's Dreamland though, I feel like, is the rides there, it's sort of targeted to children mainly. It's not necessarily stuff that adults can enjoy as well, and ideally you want attractions that everyone in the family can enjoy, because that's when people create really special memories and bonds with the park, and they'll be likely to come back and share it again, and when they have kids of their own, they'll want to come back and share it with their kids and stuff. Thank you so much everyone for leaving your comments and thoughts. Again, this sort of turned into a much longer video than I planned, and these videos take quite a while for me to edit, so I did also receive lots of interesting comments on last week's video, which I'll come back to and read in the next video as well. And if you do have any interesting additions or comments based on what I spoke about in this video, feel free to let me know down below in the comments, and I'll also try and cover that in next week's video. I'm sorry to anyone's comments who I didn't read. Sometimes I get some quite similar comments, and I kind of try to keep everything concise and based around each category at one time. And I'm also starting a new segment on this channel. If you have any interesting clips, photos, or videos that you've recorded at theme parks, they don't have to be Australian theme parks, but just cool moments that you had at a theme park, feel free to send me an email, a message on Instagram or Facebook. I won't start the segment quite yet. I'm trying to gather enough clips to kind of make it into like a 30-second to 1 minute segment on each video, which will be really cool to kind of share some highlights and cool moments from parks. So yeah, feel free to email me, message me on Instagram or Facebook. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like, a friendly comment, or subscribe for more. And before we finish, I'd like to wrap things up by giving a very special thank you to the members and sponsors of Team YumYum for supporting my content. Thank you so much everyone for your very kind and generous support. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos enough to support the channel in this way, and it helps me cover a lot of the costs associated with running the channel as well, which is a huge help. So I really appreciate it, and I can't thank you enough. A big thank you to the members: Randall, Maloney's Coasters, Kai on the Internet, Oogie Boogie, Theme Park Ogre, Jordan Casey, Johnny Boy 175, The Downy Cat, Movies Like Everyone, and Mika. Thank you very much. And a very special thank you to the Team YumYum sponsors: Koala75, Audrey Allen, Senpai's JP Blue Dog, Senpai's JP Red Dog, Wayne Hewitt, Lee Donald, SW Stevie 1, The Kez, and Mr. WG. Thank you so much again everyone for your very kind and generous support, and for anyone who would like to become a member or a sponsor of Team YumYum, you're more than welcome to do so. This will give you access to new videos early. You'll also get a special shout out and thanks at the end of my videos, some emojis to use in the comments, a sticker next to your username, and last but not least, you'll also get a custom illustrated character hand-drawn by me to suit your very needs and requirements. And as an additional way to support the channel, I also have the Team YumYum sponsorship available, which will give you access to all the perks of the membership, but as an additional perk, I will also animate your character doing a little dance which will appear on screen, which will be super fun, super cool, and super cute. But if you're not in a position to support the channel in this way, you're more than welcome to leave a like, a friendly comment, or subscribe for more. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.